Welcome to Applied Technology Podcast. Talking technology, you're talking applied. And welcome to another podcast, our ATG podcast. We're excited. This is our third episode. Today we're going to be chatting about Scada systems. We have Ron and James with us. We're very excited to do another episode. We'd also like to encourage you guys to check out our other episodes, our onboarding system, episode 1, and our episode 2, which is ATG Chat. Today, I have James and Ron with me. They'll go ahead and introduce themselves.
My name is Ron Fox. I've been here 18 years. I work basically technical sales and project management.
Ron, you are like the wizard of ATG. You know a lot, and we definitely appreciate you. James, go ahead.
So my name's James Rano. I've been at ATG almost 2 years now, and much like Ron, we work project management. We do technical sales, working with radios, Scada systems.
Well, you haven't been that long, and you learned so much. Just so comfortable in your area to speak to other people like that in such a small amount of time. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go straight to it. Let's go to our first question. Scada radio system. What does that mean?
Well, Scada stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. Basically means, you're looking at, whether it's a water tank, the water flow, the water level, collecting the data from that, and then also giving commands to, turn a pump on, turn a pump off. Mm-hmm. Now, Scada systems can be used anything from, fabrication, manufacturing, to water, wastewater, electrical grid systems, railways.
As James said, mostly they're used in like water and wastewater, oil and gas uses them, electrical, substations, things like that to turn on reclosures and route electrical power in different directions. Factory floor automation is another big one, robotics and things like that. Mm-hmm. Anytime you have something that's remote from where your control center is, mm-hmm. and you need to either get data from that item back at the control center or send a command out to the remote site. I always like to say, if somebody, what is a Scada radio system? The Scada radio system, which is what we deal with here, we don't deal with the PLCs and the RTUs, the remote units. We mainly deal with that invisible wire mm-hmm. that goes between the control center and the remote unit.
Okay.
They have to be connected somehow. Mm-hmm. And in the old days, it used to be by a physical wire, a lease line. Mm-hmm. It was a telephone line, and we had old dial-up modems like you used to have on your computer to hook to an ISP, The main computer would come up and say, I need to send a command out to this RTU out there in the field. Mm-hmm. And it would dial up the modem and over the lease line and ring the modem on the other end, just like a telephone. Mm-hmm. And the other end would answer. They'd make a connection and pass the data back and forth. And that was over a physical wire or, a telephone line. Mm-hmm. But those would get cut so often during construction and things like that, it was a very unreliable way because it was always getting damaged. Mm. So they decided a long time ago to start going wireless.
Okay.
And so that's why I always say a wireless data radio system. I've always liked to describe it as that invisible wire that gets data from one end to the other.
Okay. I see. Oh, wow. I'm learning a lot. And so let's go over to our next question. What are some of the services we provide to customers?
Antenna systems is kind of a big part of what we do, and that's everything from cable management running coax through conduits, up tower legs, up pole legs. There's some more technical, intricate side of it as far as making sure signal strength is adequate to do what the customer needs to do or wants to do. So each kind of project has its own challenges of what needs to get done.
So how do we interact with integrators like PLC companies, contractors, IT departments, and communication departments?
Normally, if we get a request to help out with a Scada radio system from what we call an integrator,
okay,
an engineering company, a prime contractor, they will usually employ us as a subcontractor just to do the radio portion of the project. Because the project, a lot of times has to do with completely upgrading either one site or an entire Scada system at a location. And of course, they do all of the the PLCs, the RTUs, the SCADA programming, all that kind of stuff, the electrical work, the construction work, all done by different kinds of prime contractors.
Mm-hmm.
We're usually the sub that comes in and just does that radio portion, puts that invisible wire in place so that they can communicate between the two. And normally when we deal with integrators, they're dealing with the end user, be it a city, a county, or a private water agency. And in some cases, we will deal directly with the end user when the end user comes directly to us and needs assistance or wants us to quote them a radio system. But if we're engaged by the integrator first, then we'll stick with the integrator. We never go around them to the end user that they're working with, unless they request us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple of integrators that we work with that's their business model right now.
Mm-hmm.
They will deal with all the PLCs and the RTUs and all that stuff. Anything to do with the radio, they'll ask us to send a quote directly to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll sell directly to the customer versus going through the integrator. He just kind of brings the business to us and tells us go work directly with the end user. We have a couple integrators that work that way.
Mm-hmm.
But most of them, we work directly with the integrator.
And speaking about customers, our last question is, what has been your favorite Scada project and why?
Done a lot of them, but I think the one that sticks out in my mind the most was a large irrigation district that wanted to move from the old obsolete legacy radios to the newer model radios at the time. This was back in 2012. I remember I plotted out all the sites on Google Earth, looked at the topology, quoted them a site survey to come up and survey all the sites and make sure they would all work with the newer radio, the Ethernet model radio. Then later on ended up selling them all the radios. And that was for like 27 sites, I think it was. Once they started building out their system, they bought hundreds of radios from us after that.
Mm-hmm.
And now that exact same customer with the same person I dealt with back then is now upgrading all of the iNet 2s to the new Orbit radios. So I've kind of been there with them as it's evolved from the 9810 to the iNet 2 and now to the Orbit.
That's so beautiful.
And they still come to us and, whenever they need more radios for new sites.
Yeah.
I think that was probably one of my favorite projects.
Yeah. And that's really awesome how you're saying we sort of continually kept up throughout the years and the generations with the evolvement of technology. What about you, James?
So I would probably pick, there was a city, water district city up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. It was kind of my first beginning to end kind of project where we did, site-by-site system analysis. I worked with the customer, going over pictures, their existing radio information, whether it's system layout, the signal strengths that they had. We did surveys, and we ended up selling and installing some of the new Orbit radios that not just the unlicensed 900 that they were on, but also have a cellular backup that added redundancy to it. And that was probably one of my favorite just because, it started off as a cold call, got the customer, worked beginning to end with it.
Like from scratch project and you saw it finish.
Yeah, and I think that's one great thing about ATG that sets us apart. We're in it for the long haul. We don't want to just sell you some product and move on.
Is there anything else you guys want to add or maybe finish with?
Being here this long, being here 18, going on 19 years, to me, I think what I find exciting is when the phone rings one day and it's a customer that you dealt with 7, 8, 10, 12 years ago, and they're calling you back. I think that says a lot.
Right.
For the level of customer service that this company provides to its customers and the level of care we provide. People don't forget that kind of stuff. And they refer you.
Yeah.
I've gotten calls from people in different parts of the country. That's word of mouth goes a long way. And the level of care you provide, people don't forget that.
Right. I feel like everything, even if you just call for something, you just talk to a machine. It's like it's so hard to talk to just a person, and get help or get explanation.
Or calling a company is endless. Press this.
Yeah, exactly.
Press 1 for
press
this.
One,
press 2 for
two.
that.
Yeah.
Press 9 for. It's like, okay.
Yeah, no, but that's so true.
And you
We
never
always-
talk to a person.
We always have a live person, and we
Right.
have people on call over the weekends and holidays. So, I mean, again, that's one thing that stands us apart from some of the competitors. Is
Right.
You always have somebody to talk to.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming and talking over about the SCADA systems and a little bit more of explanation and what it is and how it works. And basically, we would like to encourage whoever wants to write some comments or even questions. That maybe in another podcast we could even, maybe part 2, you can go ahead and answer if you get some questions. So thank you guys so much for stopping by.
It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.